Hello and welcome to this drum lesson for Freak On A Leash by Korn. For the intro, the drums play a pretty straightforward groove with some buzzed ghost notes on the snare drum and a little bit of a hi-hat sizzle on beat 4, a little something like this. So for the most part, this whole intro section and the verses just goes through that 2-bar loop where the kick drums are just a little bit different in the second bar, but other than that, it's all the same stuff. There's a couple of tiny variations where there's some added ghost notes, so let me play the next 2 bars because it's just a couple of extra snare drums like this. At the end of the intro, before the verse comes in, the drums have a little stop, which is just a crash cymbal on beat 1 and quarter notes on the hi-hats. Keep going with those quarter note hi-hats, and then a couple of bars into the verse, the drums pick up and come back in just like this. As we build up towards the pre-chorus, there's just one variation, a couple of extra ghost notes, but they're very hard to hear, so you could definitely leave them out if you want, but if you're interested, here's how it will sound. That takes us into the pre-chorus, and to start with, the first 2 bars are just on the ride cymbal with a pattern that goes like this. Then we go into probably the trickiest beat in the whole song because we're taking that same kind of rhythm but moving it around the drums like this. And then in the next 2 bars, we add even more toms. And the last 2 bars start out the same as what we just played, but then we scale back to just the ride cymbal. Let me put that whole pre-chorus section together. Now we're into the chorus, and this groove is the best bang for buck in the whole song because it sounds great, but it's actually not that hard to play. The only tricky thing, I think, is getting the kick drums to sit nicely underneath your hands on the toms. Here we go, I'll play it slowly. The left foot is definitely playing eighth notes right throughout that section, but if it's too much of a coordination challenge, you could leave it out for now until you've had a bit more practice and then definitely try and add it back in. The only difference at the end of the chorus is that there's a little hi-hat sizzle on the end of 4. Then we have some ride cymbals that kind of slow down and stretch time. I haven't figured out any particular rhythm, but I think if you play along to the song, you'll definitely be able to feel it and figure it out. We use the same beats for verse 2 as we did the first time around, and that's the same with the pre-chorus and the chorus again. So the next new beat that we have to look at is as the bridge comes in, there's no kick drums, we're just playing hi-hats and snare drum like this. That whole section carries on playing much the same on the drums. At the end, there's a stop on beat 4 with a flam and a kick drum, and here's how that goes. Next up, we're into the bridge with that big, heavy guitar riff, and we're going to follow along pretty closely on the drums, but there's a couple of different fills, so let me break it down 4 bars at a time. Here's the next 4 bars. And then the last 4 bars of this section, then I'll go back and put them all together. All right, here's that bridge all in one hit. Now we're into the last choruses, but instead of playing that beat down on the toms, we're going to play up on the crash cymbal with a more regular beat that shouldn't be too hard to grab. Right before we hit the actual outro, there's a little tom fill within the groove, and then we're going to use this right throughout the outro as well. So let me show you how it goes. And then for the outro, we just cycle through 2 bars like this. And for the very end of the song, there's no hi-hat sizzle on the end of 4, and we just go straight to a crash cymbal on beat 1. And that's the drum part to Freak On A Leash by Korn. I hope this lesson has been helpful because sometimes those tom grooves are a little bit tricky to work out by ear. I've done my best to keep them nice and accurate, so hopefully once you get them up to speed, you'll be able to play along to the song, and it's very satisfying when it sounds exactly like the recording. Have fun practicing that, and I'll see you at the next lesson.